Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Monday, May 2nd, 2022 Meridian Transportation Commission meeting. It is 3:30 p.m. and I'll call this meeting to order. Roll call, Mr. Ballard.
Here.
Mr. Shoemaker. He notified me that he will be late and joining by Zoom, hopefully. Mr. Lancaster. Mr. Leclerc.
Here.
Walter Steed is here. Tracy Hopkins.
Here.
Mr. Leckley. Here. Okay, we have a quorum. Stephen Lewis, you're on the other page. You are here.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
And Jared Smith. Preston Price.
Here.
Sean Martin. Gary Miller. R.D. Huntley. I'm sorry, I couldn't.
Lisa.
Okay.
Lisa Inkonen is here from Compass for Carl Miller.
Thank you. Welcome. And Elisa Taysom.
Here.
Okay, welcome, everyone. The first item is the adoption of the agenda. I don't have any changes. Does staff? Staff says they do not. Anyone else? We will consider the agenda adopted as published. First item is the approval of minutes of the March 7 meeting, since we didn't have an April meeting. Comments, questions, motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt the minutes as presented. Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Lewis, a second by Mr. Hopkins. Yes. Discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes of the March 7 meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? They are approved. Under old business, transportation projects update. Mr. Hood is
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the,
sitting in for Ms. Carson, who I understand is off in training.
that is correct, Mr. Chair. Members of the commission, take it easy on me today. I am filling in for Miranda, who will be back here after getting some training, national planning conference training. But I'm a little rusty sitting in this seat, so she's done a fine job, and I'm sure it's like riding a bike, right? I picked this right back up, but I will not highlight everything. Beginning on page 6 of your packet is a memo that you put together for today's meeting. I do have a couple of notes, though, that I do want to call to your attention. On the first page, page 6, shortly after this agenda was published, I did get an email from the ACHD project manager. And we talked about it, actually, Mr. Chair, last week a little bit. We will be inviting Gary Enselman and Tom Laws from ACHD to come and discuss the project prioritization stakeholder updates and the CIP at ACHD. So those are under your future meeting topics as well, kind of as 2 different items as future meeting topics. But Gary hopefully will cover one, and then Tom the other. We weren't able to get them to come to today's meeting, so I believe in June, though, that's the goal, if there are substantive updates for this group, a little bit more on the, again, both the project prioritization and the CIP. Moving on then to the next page 7, McMillan Black Cat intersection. Again, I got some kind of late breaking information on that one. I did get an email from the project manager there after looking at the doing some traffic analysis and looking at a signal and roundabout options. ACHD's consultant has recommended that they actually construct the ultimate configuration here at this location for McMillan and Black Cat. So that's a dual lane roundabout. On Wednesday, the contract to have then Burgess Nyepel go through and do the design on that is on ACHD's commission agenda for this week. So designing that into this year. Yeah, so just a quick update there. That project seems to be moving forward after they did some of the traffic analysis and other technical analysis. I am going to now jump ahead to page 10. And under the ITD projects, I do have some updates that were provided to me. I know Justin is online, so I think I'll go ahead and give this a shot. But if I screw something up or if he wants to jump in with additional supplemental information, please feel free, Mr. Price. But regarding the Idaho 16 project, so that's in the middle of the page. As you know, kind of the next phase of that has been broken into 3 phases. The phase between I-84 and Franklin, the bid opening is actually tomorrow for that construction. And then Ustick to Chinden, the bid opening will be on the 17th of May. So basically it's staggered every 2 weeks for that. They broke that down between I-84 and Chinden into 3 segments. And the first 2 bid openings are happening. And then I imagine the next one will be roughly the end of the month or 1st of June or whatever there. But so all 3 construction projects out on the street and bid openings coming up.
And you may have said it, but just to clarify, the north and south ends of that are going to be done first.
Correct. So yeah, I-84, between I-84 and Franklin is 1, and then 2 is Ustick and Chinden. And so the third one would be that middle segment between Franklin and Ustick. So that one, yeah, correct. At least that's the proposal right now. And then it's not in your packet, so I am going to read the update that I received from ITD, Mark Wasdall, I-84, Meridian Road interchange to the Eagle Road interchange. I think you all have talked about this before. I vaguely remember hearing about this when I listened to the meetings. That project, so key number 23456, kind of fun, is they're working on a PS&E package to add that auxiliary lane on the shoulder of I-84 eastbound between Meridian and Eagle interchanges, along with constructing a new shoulder there. So it's anticipated that there will be 2 lanes on the I-84 eastbound from Meridian interchange and 2 lanes off at Eagle interchange. IT is currently working and negotiating with TO engineers on designing and on that project for the PS&E package. So,
Caleb, and also kin to that, they still plan, I understand, to dual lane the current exit ramp eastbound off of 84 onto Eagle.
correct. And Mr. Chair,
I noticed this past week at 9:45 in the morning, it was backing up onto the interstate still.
so we did, I did talk to Miranda about that before she left, and that one too is on your future meeting topics. I think just as a placeholder to make sure something does happen. That is my understanding that ITD does still plan to do that. So this would be a separate project from that to basically stripe in an additional exit lane at that off ramp eastbound at Eagle Road.
Yeah, I think more for stacking than anything else, but it's a paint job. It's no asphalt, and I think they're waiting on the weather.
I see Mr. Price has gone off mute, so I don't know if he has, I imagine something to add there.
Yes, that's correct. So it won't be 2 lanes in an exit because we don't have 2 lanes to exit there. But shortly after you exit at Eagle, it will be restriped from 1 lane on the off ramp to 2 lanes just to accommodate more traffic. And yes, it's planned. We have a contractor, so it's weather and paint that we're waiting for at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Price. And then the last one, this one is in your packet towards the end there under ITD projects, State Highway 69 Cuna and Meridian traffic study. This is the one that ITD is studying with 6 Mile engineers. We actually have a project team meeting, technical committee, I guess is what they call it with ITD, on Thursday. And then after that meeting, we'll be briefing the Transportation Commission and City Council as well as Cuna. I won't be in Cuna, but the ITD and 6 Mile folks will update our Compass RTAC, ACHD Commission, and us. So just a little bit more information than what you see in your packet. That one is moving forward as well. And that one has some pretty technical details to that. So I imagine Mr. Wasdall or whoever's coming from 6 Mile, we will want to add them to that agenda to get that updated. Probably is just as simple as putting it in a packet. So I'll coordinate with them later this week on a date that works to have them come and discuss with you all. I think that's it. I just had one more quick note. Actually, on page 11, it had Valley Regional Transit there, and I just wanted to let everybody know staff has engaged between our 2 agencies at VRT and the city and we are in preliminary discussions about FY23 budget and services. So we are in our budget season, or starting the budget season for the city, which starts October 1. And so talking with, again, VRT to get something before the mayor that eventually can go forward to the council for consideration. So except for that, Mr. Chair, those are the things I had highlighted, but I'll just offer if there's anything I didn't touch on that isn't bolded or highlighted and you want to talk about, I will do my darndest to try to answer your questions, or we can discuss.
One thing, Mr. Hood, I want to bring up, Linda Road to Locust on Chinden. Well, I guess it's Locust to Meridian to Locust, where it's still 2-lane. They plan to do that this summer, I understand, on Chinden.
Okay, sorry, Mr. Chair, I was trying to catch up with where you're at. I have not heard an update on that recently. We actually did meet with the developer there of the Linder Crossing Orchard Park. Is that what they're calling it? A couple of weeks ago. I do not recall what they said about that, but I believe it is still on track. And I don't know, again, not to put Mr. Price on. Oh, he just unmuted. Perfect.
Yeah, so just this, we're talking about the stretch there, in front of Zamzo's and the church. Is that what the question was about?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so the last I knew, it is scheduled to be constructed this summer. So that's the plan as of, probably a month ago when I got an update on it, but yes, that is the plan.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Ballard?
I have two questions,
Yes, sir.
different topics. And if I may address this to Sergeant Dance. And Sergeant, and if you're not at liberty to discuss this or out of your pay grade, I understand, but on page 7, bottom of the page, Eagle Road, Lake Hazel to Amity, where there's a recessed pedestrian crossing. I'm looking at that, and it's come up several times on the commission here. Anecdotally, or maybe statistically, does that present any greater challenges for the pedestrian? I'm just I'm thinking as I'm driving, and I expect to see a pedestrian in a crosswalk at the face of the street. And now I have to think about going into that subdivision, maybe 20, 30, 40 feet, and then encounter a crosswalk. I'm just kind of curious as what if that presents a different traffic challenge.
It's a good question, and I don't necessarily know the answer to that, other than I think it's going to be important as to what type of signage or signals are there to alert drivers who are turning into that subdivision. I don't know if that's been addressed or if that's something we know for sure right now.
There just seems to be, it's like getting used to the roundabouts that if you get a little bit of experience, then you figure them out. But all right, and I appreciate that. Second question, Mr. Hood, we can go back on the restriping of the eastbound exit ramp onto Eagle Road. If that is restriped for 2 lanes to turn left, where is the lane to turn right? At the neck of that, does it expand to 3 lanes?
It's currently 3, isn't it?
Oh,
Is
2
it 4? Okay, it's currently 4.
Currently 3.
Currently 3.
And so you'll have 2 to turn left and at least 1 to turn right.
There are 2 now.
Which is what it is now, isn't it? Mr. Price, do you know off the top of your head? Who drove it
Yeah,
today?
so the
Who drove it today and looked at it?
So are we talking about the off ramp at Eagle? Is that
The
where
off ramp
we're
at Eagle
restriping?
East, yeah, going eastbound, or so you can get either north or south onto Eagle.
So at the signal, once you're at the end of the off ramp, the lane configuration won't change. What'll change is, so what's happening on that ramp as we sat and watched extensively, because the ramp is so long and there's a pretty gradual curve, people are just braking early, which we're not having issues at the signal itself. It's people actually stopping early on the ramp. So the place that's being widened, it's the single lane off ramp. As soon as you get off, just a short distance after, we'll widen to 2 lanes, which will then just increase the capacity and the storage capacity on the ramp itself. But the configuration at the signal, once you get to Eagle Road, that'll stay the same. So it'll just increase the storage on the ramp itself, so we won't have the backing up issues.
So there will still be 1 lane that you can fill to make a right-hand turn or going south.
Right. Yep. All the lanes at the light there, they will all remain the same. Those won't change.
Okay. And the other question, and as I watch the semis make the left-hand turn and go north, they off track quite a ways. Well, excuse me, I can't say that for sure. Seems like those semis take up both lanes when they make the left turn, but have to figure that out as time progresses. Those are my 2 questions.
Thank you. Anyone else with questions regarding projects? Mr. Lancaster, good to see you, sir.
Thank you. Good to be seen. Sorry for my tardiness.
Not a problem. Okay, next item on the agenda is the plan in September to visit the ACHD Operations Center. Caleb, you have any more preliminary details about how that's going to work?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Some details, I guess a couple of questions in there for you as well. So in years past, what we've done is check in here about the normal time, 3:30, somewhere in there. And that's part of the question, I guess. If we move the meeting up maybe 30 minutes to 3 o'clock and check in, it gives us time to travel down to Garden City and ACHD and spend maybe a little bit more time down there, or we could simply keep 3:30 if that's best for everyone's schedule. But then no, we're going to probably hit traffic coming back this way. So just a start time, maybe I wouldn't probably advance it too much, but we could probably do 3 o'clock. Check in here, take roll. And then again, just a checkpoint with you all. What I was planning on doing was asking Parks to borrow their big van, 12, 15 passenger van, and then we all go down there together. If you'd rather just meet down there, I think that is an option too. If everyone just wants to take their own vehicle and then when we're done and everyone goes their own separate way. And it can be a hybrid too. We can still have a van, and those of us that want to have this be home base, that's fine. And if anyone needs to leave early or whatever, leave from there, that can occur too. So there will be that option unless no one wants to ride in a van together, then I won't reserve it. But you can plan on that. And then we were thinking about, and again, if everyone shakes their head that you're not interested, probably do a box lunch or something. So have a snack. I know one year we even stopped at that point it was new, the Albertsons marketplace, and just grabbed a bite to eat, kind of closing out the afternoon, but kind of open. We do have something that way. And so just kind of gauging level of interest, what you'd like to do with a box lunch to eat in a van while we drive out there, or maybe stop somewhere and grab a quick bite on the way back, or open to other thoughts. But Mr. Chair, that's kind of where it's at right now.
Okay, let's take them one at a time. And I think timing wise, we don't have to know today, but unless you're prepared to answer, what about a 3 o'clock start time to call the meeting to order, take roll, and then go see the Operations Center? See 2 yeses.
3 yeses.
3. So, okay, looks like we're good with the 3 o'clock start for call to order and roll taking, Caleb. Second question, y'all are doing good. Do you want to get a ride in the city van? I got a yes, a yes, a yes.
Mr. Chair, before you move on to the next one, that's probably enough, and you don't all have to commit to a seat right now. But I do want to say, we can probably accommodate the Transportation Commission members, ex officio members, if you can maybe find your own way down there if you're interested. Certainly, you don't have to attend if you don't want. You're certainly welcome to as well, but if you've got other duties, I think you could be relieved of your normal duties because nothing should be talked about but the traffic operation that day. So don't want to not invite you, but I can't get you there and back. So you're on your own with transportation, but certainly welcome to attend.
And you'll be, when it gets closer, you'll be publishing the information about time and location, so those that drive themselves will know where they're going.
Correct. Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'll work with legal to make sure that's all on the agenda, the way it needs to be noticed properly and all that. So.
And regarding interest in a snack or something on the way back? Come on, Mr. Ballard.
Well,
Everybody'd like a finger sandwich.
I was going to say that that's kind of close to happy hour, but that's not the focus of the group. So, you know, a little cucumber sandwich would be great.
Okay.
I'll work on a menu then between now and then, and we'll route that through, and you guys can, you know, probably Jimmy John's or something like that, and you guys can. Okay.
I think that gives you some answers.
Thank you.
Okay. New business, the ACHD Bicycle Advisory Committee. Meg McCarthy is going to talk to us about that.
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone.
Welcome.
Hi, I'm tuning in from my office because actually we have a bike advisory committee meeting in 1 hour, and traffic getting from Meridian to Garden City, as you know, can be a little tricky. So anyway, I'm going to share my screen. And I think that my screen might have frozen.
We don't have it yet.
It says you're sharing your screen, but I don't actually see.
There's nothing here. Yeah, it looks like, oh, there we go. Okay. Let me try this again.
There you go.
Yes.
Okay, great. Are you seeing my presenter view or the regular?
We can see your notes too.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. We don't want that. Okay. Let me stop this. Look at it.
I've seen the Tour de France
Yeah.
picture before.
It always makes me feel a little bit better. If I feel really overwhelmed with work, I always think about the crazy bike rides that they were doing, smoking cigarettes the whole time. Okay. Okay, can you see it
You're good.
now?
You're good.
Good. Yay. Cool. Okay, sweet. So thanks so much for having me. I am here to talk about not only the BAC, but also the PAG, because they're very similar and they both relate to the work that I think this committee is interested in. So I'm Meg McCarthy, and I'm the Bicyclist and Pedestrian Program Coordinator here at ACHD. I do a lot of things here at ACHD. Anything that has to do with bikes or pedestrians comes through me. But I am the staff liaison for the Bike Advisory Committee and the Pedestrian Advisory Group. So before we get into those advisory groups, I just want to share a little bit about what ACHD is and then how the committees were formed and where they fit in at ACHD and what that membership entails. So as hopefully you all know, ACHD was established in 1971 by voters of Ada County. And we are governed by a 5-member elected commission. And ACHD owns all of the roads, bridges, streets, and alleyways in Ada County. It's a lot to maintain, and these are just all of the facts of the things that we do. But we serve a lot of people, and we spend and receive a lot of money. The things that might be of interest to this group is our bike and pedestrian facts. So we have 177 miles of striped bike lanes, and we'll add more at the close of this year, and 186 miles of low stress bikeways. And we have built 1,662 miles of sidewalk. So ACHD, our priorities are just to provide quality transportation for everyone. And that includes people that are walking and biking. I do get asked a lot why we're spending money on this stuff, because it doesn't matter. And I always go back to it's quality transportation for everyone. And working here, we are pushed to be innovative and always have a really, really strong focus on safety. So, as I said before, ultimately everything that we do at ACHD it really comes down to who our commissioners are. They're the people who direct us and who adopt all of our documents and concepts and designs and all of the policies that we implement across the county. And actually, we just redid our districts just a teeny little bit, but that just changed between District 1 and 2 and 5 a little bit. So it's kind of interesting. So as I said before, ACHD is a huge organization. I put this little star by planning. This is where my department is. And so a lot of the work that we do with the advisory committees is through planning, although our ADA, our Americans with Disability Act Advisory Committee, they actually work more with like traffic engineering and development review, and they're more on that engineering and design side. But even though we're mostly plans and projects, that doesn't mean that the advisory committees only see planning and projects presentations. A lot of times we'll have folks from our DTS come who will present about policy, traffic, engineering, design. And then we also have maintenance presentations as they relate to chip sealing or winter operations. So again, whenever people say like, why do we do this stuff? Like, we don't need bike and ped stuff. Well, these are all of the adopted documents by the commission that have bike ped elements. And they're kind of the cornerstone pieces of our transportation planning. And the most important one is probably the Transportation Land Use Integration Plan. Our TLIP, it houses our complete streets policy, the livable street design guide, and the recently adopted performance measures, as well as our master street map. And then we have the bike master plan, which was amended in 2018. And part of what the BAC and the PAG does is that they execute the ideas in that plan and the projects that are in that plan. They're in charge of making sure that we're staying on top of that plan. And then we have our ADA transition plan, which was adopted in 2019, and it's updated every single year through our annual report. And then putting this all together, a lot of the implementation comes from our community programs. So that is our bikeway programs, crossing projects, a lot of projects from neighborhood plans, and also safe routes to school projects. And we also have a safe sidewalks program. So that's for existing sidewalk. it's not necessarily to add sidewalk, but if there are ramps that aren't ADA compliant or sidewalk that's really damaged from tree roots, we have a safe sidewalks program that's able to address that as well. And we also build bike and pedestrian facilities through our road and intersection program. That's really like our capital improvements plan. And then we also are adding things through maintenance. We just recently finished doing a bike facility inventory where we measured all of the bike facilities in Ada County. And so now we're able, before chip sealing, to go in and find where our bike facilities are deficient and where we could steal some lane width from travel vehicles to add into the bike lane to make it a little bit more comfortable. And also the commission has taken a new kind of stance of going in once. And so part of that is we're addressing sidewalks and bike facilities in a lot of our maintenance projects too. It's less disruptive to residents and it's actually easier, I think, for us, but it creates more expensive projects. So as you can see, the BAC is definitely our longest serving advisory committee. They've been around since 2005. Our Americans with Disabilities Act started in 2007, and the Pedestrian Advisory Group is still relatively new, I guess, starting in 2017. And the BAC and the PAG, they both meet monthly, but the ADA committee meets every other month. And right now the BAC meets at 5 on the first Monday of the month. The PAG meets the third Thursday at 4:30, and our ADA group meets, I think it's like every odd month on a Wednesday from 11 to 12 p.m. But all of the advisory committees serve the same purpose. And what they do is they recommend projects and policies and programs by writing letters to our commissioners, and we make them aware of what we're doing at ACHD by sharing projects and concepts and anything else that the district kind of needs input from, or that we've been directed by the commission to go to the committees for. They're an important voice because they are sort of our local experts. They're mostly passionate advocates, and they also have a lot of committee members are liaisons between municipalities and nonprofits. Our own Steve Lewis, who is a member on your committee, is our vice president of the Pedestrian Advisory Group. We love Steve. But anyway, they usually have a little bit of expertise and are able to look at projects in a different way. And our commissioners attend ADA meetings, BAC and PAG meetings. And so our commissioners are able to hear from those advocates what they're thinking. And so it makes them more familiar, and our members also attend public hearings and will provide testimony. Although it is important to mention that our members can never represent the group alone if they can't represent the group as a whole. If Steve wanted to share with you things about the Pedestrian Advisory Group or what he thinks they're working on or crossing, we've been working on a crossing project, like mapping and kind of figuring out where all of our enhanced crossings are. And Steve couldn't say to you, well, the PAG wants a crossing here. It would be more like, I want a crossing here and I'm going to recommend it to the PAG. This is because of open meeting laws. We can't have deliberations or decisions being made without a quorum notice. And so anybody can attend those meetings. They are public. But that's sometimes where we get into hot water, is if members do represent themselves as a member of the committee and not as the entire committee or alone without the committee. The committees discuss a lot of different concepts and issues and designs, and it's a great place to to get ideas and to learn. And we're always, as ACHD staff, trying to make sure that they're staying educated on everything that we're doing. And I think the other important part is that the PAG, the BAC, and the ADA committee have subcommittees. And so the subcommittees are able to, they're able to kind of take a deeper dive on some things. And that can be as the committee sees fit or what staff requests. But right now we have an integrated 5-year work plan subcommittee for the PAG and the BAC. And I think the ADA is going to start hopping on, or we're going to combine all of them. And then we also have a bike map with that bike facility inventory, our LTS measures. That was the Livable Streets Design Guide Performance Measures. We just call it LTS. But we went to the committees for that. I work with the committees for our Let's Get There Safely campaign, which is ACHD's encouragement and education program, with ongoing funding. And we have a PSA for that. And Steve's a part of that committee too. And we also do allow ex officio members. And so for the city of Meridian, Brian McClure is on the BAC. I don't think we have any ex officio members on the PAG or the ADA, but that's not to say that they couldn't join. But all of our members are reviewed and approved by the commission, and they serve 2-year terms. And we advertise vacancies when they are available. And right now we actually do have a vacancy on the PAG. And so we're looking for someone, and we'll advertise that through our social media and through the ACHD website. And most of our members serve 2-year terms, although not all the time. And every single committee has a chair and a vice chair and a secretary, and they're all voted on every single year. They serve 1-year terms during the elections, which is the first meeting of the new year. And our chair is always approved by the director. And trying to think what else. I think that's the end of my presentation, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have about the BAC or the PAG. Since I'm not the staff liaison for the ADA committee, it might be a little bit more challenging, although I'm familiar with it. Thanks, Steve.
Okay, any questions from Ms. McCarthy?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I don't have a question, but maybe just thank you for attending, Meg. Just letting the membership know, Adrian Weatherly in our legal department is actually one of a BAC member that also wears a hat here, working as a city employee as well. So we did have a transportation commissioner that served, Brian Leslie, but Adrian Weatherly has been doing that for the past 4 or 5, maybe 6 months. I don't know exactly, something like that. And I don't know if there's who's on the ADA committee at ACHD, but that is a question there. So I don't know if any resident of Meridian or who is serving on that one. And maybe, go ahead.
You can always, I'm Googling right now, but you can always just search ACHD ADA committee or pedestrian advisory group or any of those things. And Adrian is our secretary. She's doing an awesome job.
And maybe just one more point of order. We asked Meg to attend to give you a little, to let you know, obviously Steve Lewis knows about the groups, and I'm chairman, I know you know, and probably all of you do know that these exist, but appreciate the presentation. We would like to have some regular cadence to this. I don't know if it's twice a year or what that looks like. And maybe Meg, just to have a little bit of that conversation now, in your example, and I get the open meetings law, kind of what we had hoped at staff was that we could have somebody, and again, not trying to create issues for anyone, but update more on what's happened, not what's going to be happening. Like in your scenario, hey, PAG wants a crosswalk or whatever, but it's, hey, we worked on this the last quarter or the last 6 months, and it really is just, this is what they did, not this is what we're going to be working on or what we're going to do.
I
Do you
guess,
still see that as a conflict? It really is just bringing this group, the Transportation Commission, up to speed on what has happened.
right. I wouldn't see it as a conflict necessarily, although all of the groups do different things and I guess really just following along with bicyclist and pedestrian projects through the ACHD Commission is how you would figure out what they're working on, I guess. We do
you-
have, I guess that's why we have that ex officio member is so that they can provide updates as they relate to the city.
Okay, thank you. And maybe we can speak a little bit more on that, maybe what makes sense. Particularly, again, we don't have anybody as an ex officio on the PAG, for example. So, or ADA for that matter. So I don't know how we would get any of those types of updates necessarily. So, but we'll maybe talk and see what that looks like. And I don't want this to be a burden on anybody. So, but did think it'd be good to share maybe, again, even more project specific once recommendations to your commission has been made and they're kind of outside of the committee role and onto the elected official role. Just letting this group know again, kind of what's happening. So yeah, I
Right.
appreciate you coming today.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, maybe it's just sharing what letters they're submitting to the commission and just keeping this group updated on that. As they submit letters of support or saying they don't like things or whatever.
I think it would be good to get an annual, what we have accomplished, or what's been done kind of report.
I guess, again, I would say there's so many projects and the committees. I mean, the PAG has been doing more homework, actually, Steve, than the BAC usually, but there's not necessarily deliverables from the committees besides those letters to the commission that I could envision being able to share outside of like what we do for our annual report. But
Chair,
Mr. Ballard.
I have a question. Ms. McCarthy, is there a metric that measures how many bicycles there are, the use? Just trying to get a feel for who's using it, how often?
yeah, that's a great question. We actually just got approved. So right now we don't. We work with Compass and we install portable counters at different places throughout Ada County. And so we're only able to really look at a 2-week snapshot usually. And a lot of times those counters, they come with their challenges. Sometimes they're counting cars. Sometimes they can't count the difference between a cyclist or a pedestrian. And so we did just get approved to install eco counters with all of our new bike ped projects. And so I actually think the city of Meridian will probably be seeing a lot of those counters. ACHD will run and manage the counter program, but it'll come out of the project budget. And so we'll be able to look, and as long as we keep the software updated and check the battery and make sure that the counters are working, we'll actually finally be able to see if, making these multi-use pathways or raised bike lanes, if people are using it or not.
It's kind of a field of dreams question. If it's been built, will they come?
Mhm.
Pathways are built, are they used?
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And I wish I had an answer for you, but yeah, we do temporary counters with Compass right now. And then we also have interns who just count cyclists and pedestrians at intersections from video.
I mean, it'd be interesting if you could correlate, if someone's riding a bicycle, does that take a car off the street or a half a car off the street? I just kind of curious. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else with questions for Ms. McCarthy? Okay, thank you, ma'am. We
Great.
appreciate it.
Thanks. Thanks for
Glad you
having me.
glad you could join us.
Great.
And maybe you and Mr. Hood could talk offline a little bit about
Yeah,
possibly working out a way to get some kind of reporting on
sure.
some kind of annual basis. Thank you, ma'am.
Sure. You're welcome. Thanks. Bye.
Okay, moving along, item 5, under new business, Sergeant Dance. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. I'm getting used to the lingo in here still, so forgive me. I wanted to talk a little bit about our hands-free state law. Mr. Leclerc had posed a question a couple months ago as to the effectiveness of that and what we have seen in the police department as to crash statistics and kind of the enforcement side of that. So I reached out to ITD to see if they could tell me the number of crashes we had in 2021 that we attributed directly to texting and driving. And they got back to me with the number of 8 crashes. So if I were to look at that statistic alone, I would think that our education, our prevention, and our enforcement opportunities are working well. I don't have the total number of crashes that were reported in 2021 yet, but in 2020, there were almost 1,700 crashes in the city of Meridian. And that was a little less than the previous years. So I would think that in 2021, there were roughly 1,700 to 2,000 reported crashes. The number 8 to me is not the real number of crashes that are attributed directly to texting and driving. And I say that because it's very, very difficult to prove that the cause of a collision was somebody texting and driving, unless they admit to it or one party involved in that crash observed that other person texting. It's pretty rare that somebody comes out and just says, yeah, I was texting and that's why we crashed. So it's a very difficult law to enforce for us specifically because, you know, it's something that we've all seen when we're driving around. We see people on their phones all the time. And I see it all the time on my days off when I'm in my personal vehicle and we pull up at the stoplight and the person next to us is texting on their phone, or, you know, we see it a lot, but people tend to be on their best behavior when they see a marked police car in the area, right? So it's a difficult one to enforce for us, but we have spent a lot of time over the past couple of months utilizing the Office of Highway Safety grant money that we were awarded in October of last year for this fiscal year. And we spent a lot of time looking for those enforcement opportunities for texting and driving, but also not only that, but also aggressive driving and other distracted driving. So, so the numbers say that we're doing well when it comes to how that law is affecting the number of crashes and is it reducing the number of crashes. Yes, I think we are doing well, but like I said, those numbers aren't the reality. And again, it's just it's a difficult one to enforce. There's a lot of other contributing factors that we can attribute to distraction that are more easily proven, I guess would be the right word. Somebody looking, you know, not paying attention on the road, somebody looking at something on the side of the road, or a passenger talking to them, or them messing with their radio, or they spill a drink. And then when they look up, you know, they're too close to the car in front of them and they collide with it. Those are things that are a little more easy to prove. Other things like following too closely, that's a traffic violation that's easy to prove, because if the car you're driving, crashes into the car in front of you. Generally speaking, if you had given more distance between that car, you would have been able to stop if you're paying attention, right? So there are times when we know that somebody wasn't paying attention and that's why they collided with the car in front of them, or failed to see the car coming when they decided to make a turn. There are a lot of times we're pretty sure that they were on their phone or that they were distracted by, you know, a mobile device, but again, it's very difficult to prove. So, and Mr. Leclerc, I don't recall exactly what other questions you had pertaining to that, but again, it is something of emphasis that we're out there trying to enforce.
Mr. Chairman, Sergeant Dance. I'm just realizing 2020 and 2021 also happen to be really bad years for reporting traffic accidents. So many people were not even on the road, but there's that. But what I was interested in was we had an ordinance for the city that we thought was going to work, and then the state legislature went through and passed a law basically that overrode it, which is what they seem to do a lot. But anyway, where this started was and I guess because it really never went into effect, it'd be difficult to develop the differences in the two approaches. But it's basically, I think if I understand it right, the state laws has to be really only applies to accidents, whereas our city ordinance allowed the police officer to, if they witnessed it, someone texting while driving, they could stop them and warn them, or if it was flagrant and caused or almost caused an accident, they could cite them. But I think under this state law, that's not the case. It only comes into play after the accident if that's determined as a cause. And so if that's right, I guess first, Mr. Chairman and Sergeant, is that correct? Has anyone kept track of that? Or did we just kind of forget about our ordinance?
There we go. Can you hear me now? Okay. So the state law it is a hands-free ordinance. So it's the same as our city ordinance was. We can stop somebody if we observe them on their phone. Okay. It states specifically in the law that it's illegal to operate a mobile device while you're in physical control of a vehicle. And that includes stopped at a traffic signal or at a stoplight. But it does allow for certain exceptions, such as using it to dial 911 or using it for navigation purposes, or using it to, a one-touch option to answer a phone call or to end a phone call. So there's a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot, but there are exceptions in there that make it very difficult to prove specifically that somebody was texting or browsing the internet or social media. But the answer is yes. It does allow us to make a stop if we simply observe it.
So if someone can't see a black and white sitting next to them and is sitting there doing this, y'all have the ability and authority to pull them over, warn them, or ticket them, correct?
Correct.
It's obvious they're not navigating. They're not saying, answer the phone call hands-free. They're doing what my grandchildren can do and I can't, which is type 90 words a minute with their thumbs.
Correct. And again, we can stop based on probable cause or reasonable suspicion that somebody's doing that. But again, we don't have the authority to simply take somebody's phone and go through it or, we don't subpoena phone records on every crash that we investigate. Obviously, that can be done if it's a fatality crash or a serious injury crash, but again, it takes a little more. In theory, it's a great law, right? It would seem that it would be very easy to enforce, and in reality, it's a little more difficult than just simply stopping everybody you see that might be on their phone.
Well, Mr. Chairman, Sergeant Vance,
Go ahead.
I feel updated. It doesn't sound like there's anything we could recommend council to ask legislature to make any changes yet. But I guess that's the last question. Is there anything we could add to this law that would help you all do your jobs and make the roads safer? Last question.
Yeah, I honestly don't think so. I think our biggest avenue is going to be in education, and I know that's done in driver's ed, and it's done in the schools, and it's done in our Alive at 25 classes that we provide for people who do receive citations. So that's the biggest thing, I think, is the education, and technology has come a long way, and there are a lot more. I do notice a lot more people that are using the hands-free technology, and I think as that continues to improve, and again, just education, those are going to be our best bets.
Okay, anybody else with a question for the sergeant regarding hands-free, or as long as we've got him, anything else?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, Mr. Lancaster.
Yeah, thank you. So as I look through our agenda packet, if Sergeant Dance can stick around, it might be helpful to have his input or thoughts as we get to the staff communications, particularly the compression brakes sign.
Okay,
If he has time to stick around for a minute more.
as long as that radio doesn't go off, I think he's going to stay with us.
I'll be here. As long as that radio doesn't go off, I'll be here.
Okay. Moving along, speaking of staff communications, Mr. Lancaster, Mr. Hood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Page 12 begins in your packet is the, excuse me, staff communications memo. I'm going to start at the top there. Stockenham, let me share my screen here just to reorient everybody. Okay. Picture's a little bit outdated. Most all of these homes now exist. So pretty good build out in Rockhampton and some of the subdivisions that are around Hillsdale Elementary School and the South YMCA. So I think most, if not all of you, have some history with this. So I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of time on the school crossing issue, but I do want to zoom in a little bit just to refresh. There's a mid-block crossing here on Stockenham. There's also I can't remember if it actually has any markings. I don't see any on the aerial here, but there is a crosswalk essentially at Laughlin and Stockenham Way, and Rockhampton also has quite a few. Like I said, this subdivision is building out and you get a lot of, so you got kids basically converging various locations across from Hillsdale Elementary. And so you see the summary there that Miranda put in your packet. I'm going to cut to the punchline for this meeting anyways. We think it would be best to convene the school zone subcommittee to discuss this some more. Seems like maybe there's a little bit of some different thoughts from the school district and that principal and ACHD, and just want to make sure we're all in alignment there if possible on best solutions for crossing kids near and around to Hillsdale Elementary School. So with that, I don't know if we want to set that date now or how you want to work that, Mr. Chair, but that is what the staff's recommendation would be.
So, Mr. Lancaster, am I correct? You are the chair of the school subcommittee?
That is correct, Mr. Chairman.
would you be in a position to say you'd like to take it on, or would you like to say no way and no how, or what?
Mr. Chairman, I think we can take that on. We have taken this on in the past.
Mhm.
So we can take that on and let's figure out a date offline or after the meeting, but before the June meeting, when we can get together. Does that sound acceptable, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, apparently there, Mr. Hood can give you the text or the detail of the citizen concern that they received. I haven't seen it, but I presume it's available. And then he also indicated that, if I understood you correctly, Mr. Hood, that the school district or the principal may have some opinions that might be worth listening to in this as well.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if Miranda hasn't sent that, I'll go ahead and send to you, Ryan, the series of emails back and forth between this. I can't remember if it was the principal or RD or who was part of that conversation, but I'll find that and forward it to you so you're up to speed.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
just from my memory, I recall a couple of years ago, the school zone subcommittee meeting in this room behind us with the principal, with the YMCA, with a bunch of people, and we went through it at that time. And the results of that meeting are what went into this commission's community programs recommendation that the existing mid-block crossing be removed and that our RFP crossings be put at Lackland and Rockhampton both. So I guess I'm confused. Has the school changed their mind on what they want?
I don't know that we know that. I think what we're looking for, Mr. Lewis, is if you need Mr. Hood to see if he can locate minutes of the previous meeting that discussed that, to make sure that your memory is as correct as I believe it is. And any other relative pertinent evidence of what was done before, and to find out from the citizen concern, is it that y'all made a recommendation and nobody did anything about it, or what? Just what the situation is. And I certainly don't know.
So, Mr. Chair, just real quick, and again, I'll get Ryan up to speed so he can refresh. I don't know that we have minutes from then, but what is in our current list of priorities for the city is what we discussed. And I felt like, Mr. Lewis, we all agreed to kind of in council conference room. It does sound, and again, I'm not sure if this is school district or administration at the school, but somehow the school district it still wants to explore the mid-block crossing. And again, I could see some of that from Rockhampton. That's asking elementary school kids to go a quarter mile out of direction to get to that school. So we just need to refresh, make sure what we decided a couple of years ago and asked ACHD to do is still what is the best solution, or just understand maybe some of those thoughts. So I will again equip everybody for that meeting that Mr. Lancaster has agreed to organize and share that. And I know the school district has historically obviously been part of that. We had the HOA part of that meeting. So I'll again try to bring up some of that past actions.
And also confirm what's the paint on the ground out there now. This, as you said, this aerial is older. So just to make sure exactly how the streets and mid blocks are painted around that thing at this time. Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
if I may ask a follow-up question on our task here. So, as Commissioner Lewis and Caleb have mentioned, we had a lot of representation before from YMCA, the school. We had the school resource officer from the police department. We had ACHD, and we had Commissioner Lewis and myself and Caleb. I think, as I recall, you were there too. So we had a lot of people there. Or is our task to reconvene all of those people, or we're just meeting with our school subcommittee?
I would suggest it's whatever level of attendance you feel appropriate. I'm not exactly sure what the citizen concern is, so I don't have a defined problem here, except they brought something up that has to do with crossings around that school. So I would like to see your group look at what's marked on the ground out there now. How does it relate to what y'all did previously, and how does it relate to the citizens' concern? And you may find the citizen just needs to have explained to them what's going on as opposed to what they think's going on. I don't know that though.
So, Mr. Chair and Commissioner Lancaster, if you don't mind, real quick, just a little bit on that. I can summarize the request is essentially what I alluded to at the beginning. I don't know exactly where they live, but somewhere off of Ashcroft that comes into Rockhampton, the request is for a crosswalk, some paint. Again, this is a crosswalk, but it's an unsigned crosswalk, is for some protection, basically a crossing guard and or paint at this location. So in theory, you could have 3 locations for crosswalk crossing guards here at Rockhampton / Ashcroft, the mid-block, and at Laughlin. So, and Mr. Lancaster, if you would like me to try to invite whoever your group thinks you need to have there, I can certainly try to, I can extend invitations. I can't make anybody attend. But again, I think in this email series, it will kind of, and that is, I guess, the intent is that when we do get a citizen in the future that asks us, we can all be on the same page and at least understand if our agencies don't all agree on the solution, we at least know that. But ideally, we're all rowing in the same direction. But if ACHD wants one thing and YMCA wants something else, I mean, at least to understand that. And then again, hopefully we're all on the same page with what the solution is.
And give the citizen, the fact that we do want them to come to us. We do hear them. We do listen to them. And the answer may be, you're absolutely right. We can't do anything about it, or at a good point, and we're working on getting something changed, whatever the case may be. Okay.
All right, Mr. Chair, moving on, and let me see if I can multitask here a little bit. Again, just a quick refresher. I know everyone's familiar with this one as well. We're going to go to the other side of the freeway here behind the village. You had gentleman approach you probably about 6 months ago now, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Well, like probably 4.
Okay, something like that. So again, this aerial is outdated. The Bree 55 and over community currently exists out here. And there's kind of a 2-part question. You can read more about it. And again, I know everyone's familiar, but basically speed on records and a request for a crosswalk, an additional crosswalk of records behind or in general location of the Bree, not just at the 3-legged intersection of River Valley and Records Way. So you can see the next several pages from 12 on, 13, 14, 15 is some of the analysis and reporting out that ACHD provided after evaluating that request. Long story short, conversations with ACHD staff, they didn't recommend either one of those. They don't recommend a speed limit reduction or an additional crosswalk in this stretch. And they did say, staff did say, potentially if you want to have, take this to the next level, something needs to come from the mayor and council to the ACHD commission. So that was a very brief synopsis of the report out. It's unfortunate Sean's not here today because he was involved with some of that, but I can certainly circle back with him if you'd like me to on any questions you may have on the speed study or pedestrian counts. But Mr. Chair, I think I'm gonna just leave it there unless, I will just maybe a final point on one of those options. If there is still, regarding the speed anyways, one of the options could be, so it's right now signed 30 miles per hour. The city default speed is 25. So if we simply request them to remove the speed limit signs, it would by default be an unsigned roadway, which would go to our default, which would be 25. So it's kind of a workaround to get it to 25. If you really wanted to get there, that's how you could do it, is just remove all speed limit signs and then it's an unposted roadway. And in Meridian, when it's unposted, it goes to 25. So I'm not advocating for that. I'm just saying that that is one potential request here of ACHD is just to remove the speed limit signs on that collector roadway.
I am pretty sure I remember Mr. Martin when he spoke to this before, when the group from that building came and talked to us. He said that they were going to go look at speeds and crossings, but that they were going to do it when the weather was better. Well, this study was done on February the 3rd, and it was cloudy and 28 degrees. And the fact that nobody was walking across Records Way at that time is just shocking to me, that they just weren't all running over to the park to go sledding or something. I don't consider, a ped crossing speed study on a 28-degree day to be that helpful. The speed study does show that people are, for the most part, staying within the parameters of the speed limit that's posted. But personally, I am still concerned that marked crosswalk up at East River Valley Street, where you've got a three-way T intersection and older people walking where your area is across to the park, run the risk of somebody looking at different ways and starting to turn before they realize that somebody's stepping off the curb with a walker. So I would like to see this not dropped, somehow revisited.
Mr. Chairman.
What's other people think? Mr. Lancaster.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So there is some interesting information here. So, and they provide, ACHD and city staff have provided us with the raw data. So it looks like the vehicular counts were on February 3rd when it was cloudy and 28, but the pedestrian counts were on March 31st when it was sunny and 47. So, what we're looking for is a representative day, not necessarily, a perfect day, right? So Mr. Chairman, based on what's presented, there's no surprises here to me. Certainly, it does not point to a lower speed limit. It does not point to any more pedestrian facilities. If anything, it points to the speed limit should be 35, not 30. Thinking of Sergeant Dance with this, if he wrote a ticket for speeding at 31 miles per hour and somebody were to ask for this speed study as their defense and, challenging the ticket, I would think that it would be difficult for that ticket to stand because the speed study basically says the speed limit should be 35. So ACHD has completed the task that we asked them to do. And I'm sure their timing for doing it was so that they could respond to us timely also. So I think we should thank ACHD for their work on this at our request. And to me, it is the item is closed.
Other thoughts?
Mr. Chairman,
Lewis.
To deviate a little bit from the speed and the crossing issue to what you mentioned about at the intersection of East River and Records, about how pedestrians find it, or rather could find it difficult to cross there at the all-way stop. It's true, there's an awful lot of pavement out there. And as I've driven through that intersection as a motorist, it's kind of an uncomfortable intersection, and I can see that happening. And the always stop backs up long queues for on a regular basis, I believe. I mean, and I'm not sure if this was one of the intended outcomes, but I mean, if I were to look at this just fresh, I would look for an alternate form of intersection control, like a mini roundabout, for example, as a solution to that. So there's my 2 cents.
I'll hold my breath. Anyone else? I see your finger on the button, Tom.
Yeah, oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I think I'm agreeing with Commissioner Lancaster that we got our study, we got our information. And as I read through it too, it seemed like that 30-mile-an-hour sign is a good fit. I don't think the speed is so much the trouble. And you know, we've got this T intersection has crosswalks. I know, I think the residents wanted a crossing down by where the very southern part of this image, we have the parking lot that was there. Well, they wanted a crossing down there. I think they go to, I don't know if that's critical to me, but that it seems like ACHD would make that call anyway. But it's I'm feeling pretty satisfied with this response by ACHD also.
Okay, anyone else? Mr. Hood, I think you've got your answer. We do need, I feel, to communicate with the group that came to us. You can do it however you feel best. Just transmit the ACHD information to them and let them know that Transportation Commission received the information and did not elect to pursue it. You can do a letter to be over my signature. You can do one from your department, or however you think the best way to do it is. But I think we do need to comment to them.
Absolutely. Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, and maybe this warrants a follow-up discussion offline, but I will just start with this. My initial thought is to, well, maybe just a little bit of history first. This group actually approached the city council first, and the city council said, go talk to our Transportation Commission first. So I think we need to not only follow up with this group, but also report back out to the council, because that's where it sort of originated with this party.
We need to answer the council's request for us to look at.
Yeah, so again, I'll talk with Miranda and maybe even yourself, Mr. Chair, and figure out, it's probably just an email, doesn't need to be anything super official, but definitely communicate with both of those parties, phone call, email, whatever. And I just want to let this group know that, yeah, we got to report out to at least those two parties, so.
All right.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
If I may briefly, I'm glad you guys brought that up. That's certainly appropriate. I don't think by my comment that I don't think we need to consider this further was just, like Commissioner Leclerc said, the tasks that we were asked to do and the tasks that we asked ACHD to do seem to be complete. And so, yeah, I think it's appropriate to report back. So I thank you and Caleb for following through on that part of it.
Okay, Mr. Hood, continuing with the staff communications.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is the last one I have on staff communications to highlight. So let me zoom in there. Now we're on page 17, top to 17. This was alluded to previously. There has been a complaint that we received from a citizen, originally sent to the mayor's office, then down to Miranda, had some back and forth with ACHD. Again, apologize that my GIS isn't on the desktop here, so I have to use Google, but we're south of Overland Road, about mid-mile, approximately the Reidenbach Canal, which does crest here. There's an existing welcome to Meridian sign, the 2x3 metal signs approximately in this location, if everybody can see my.
I think it's further north, Mr. Hood, not a lot, but
Yeah, it's somewhere in this area anyways.
it's on down and the canal crosses at the top of the
This
hill.
is the top, right?
that goes downhill starting at the canal toward Overland, correct?
Yes, this is it kind of sounds weird, but the riding ball is the top of the hill. So, yeah, somewhere generally in this area, because this is a county subdivision here, this is a city subdivision, somewhere in this general vicinity is a welcome to Meridian sign. It doesn't say welcome, but it's Meridian, our logo, sign here. So a 2x3 middle post. So you can see there, ACHD is willing to put up a compression brake sign, but they do want to co-locate that with a welcome sign to Meridian. Open to that. I just want to put this in context a little bit more. I'm going to zoom out just a hair. And again, this is outdated. You can actually see some of the roads that have been cut in here. So the long-term, even next interim location where that sign should move to should actually probably be down here somewhere, because city limits are advancing further and further south. So if we do put a sign, any type of a sign here, especially if it says welcome to Meridian, it's not really true, because you should have been welcome to Meridian about 3/4 of a mile away. So if we want to do that, I guess, and I'm kind of jumping to the end and giving you my 2 cents, and I apologize for that to some degree. But if the sign needs to move, yes. If you want it to move more to the top of this hill and catch truckers that are headed northbound on Linder Road as they begin to come up the hill and then back down, to say, hey, don't use your Jake brake, as you go down. That is certainly an opportunity. I just don't know. I know that sign won't be there forever. Let me just say it that way. Because again, the city is growing in this general direction, and we move those signs back about every other year. So with that, the rest of the information is in here. Again, some of these just seem like Groundhog Day and they never go away. So we've talked about this and beat it and have ordinance and all that, but there's the request. And this person is willing to come to a future meeting if need be, if we want to continue this to next month, hear from them. That is an opportunity. If you want to take some action today, I think could be appropriate as well. So, Mr. Chair, I'll turn it back to you.
So as it says in our packet, ACHD will not allow a freestanding compression brake sign by itself. It has to be with a city limit sign or an Ada County sign, or an Ada County, welcome to Ada County sign. Is that correct? We can't just.
Correct.
We cannot, and no one will put a compression brakes prohibited at the top of that hill going northbound. And I drove out there and looked at this, and there are houses that back up to Linder on both sides of Linder, north of the canal. I mean, it'd be very hard for me to guess which one of those 20 houses is the complainant, but it's going to be one of them. And I know what's happening. The trucks are coming from the county. It's running relatively flat, and all of a sudden she breaks downhill, and so do they. That's just my guess. Mr. Lancaster, you had some interest in this, so would you like to weigh in, sir?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, thank you. So I think Caleb said it well, that some of these just come back. I think we need a Woodbridge cut through discussion again here soon, but I do have some thoughts on this, Mr. Chairman. I don't want to dominate the discussion. I'm afraid I have already on our previous topic, but a few thoughts. So, we've heard from Sergeant Dance's predecessor, Sergeant Arnold, that the compression brakes ordinance is another one of those that's nice, but is almost unenforceable. Because unless the officer, as I recall from what Sergeant Arnold said, unless the officer is right there when a truck comes past with unmuffled compression brakes, that, there's nothing they can do about it. They can't chase a ghost, so to speak, right? And as I recall, it was, so the council passed the ordinance. As I recall, it was our recommendation to the council not to pass it. And I don't say this to spite them, but I do, It's been explained to me once before, and this gets into Mr. Baird's realm, but as I recall, there are some federal regulations that prohibit prohibitions on use of muffled compression brakes. So, you know, even if it is enforceable, even if there's a city ordinance, you know, if it were challenged, as I understand it, it wouldn't be withheld. So, or it wouldn't hold up. So I am not going to encourage the posting of these compression brake signs for those reasons. I would be interested in the input of Sergeant Dance if he'd like to give it, or if you'd like to invite him to, Mr. Chairman, but those are my comments.
Any other commission member before Sergeant Dance weighs in?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Ballard, I understand at one time in your history, you drove big trucks.
yes, sir, I did.
Talk to us.
Well, I'd be curious if this is a concern. I'm curious to know what type of trucks. By that, Linder Road is not conducive to over-the-road semis. So you have some local delivery, whether it's gravel trucks or cement trucks, what have you.
Farm to market.
So is it an approach to identify if there's a particular group? And it's not regulated per se, but do you go and have a conversation with a company that's representative of those trucks, and through education ask them to watch it? The other side of it is, I don't know what time of the day it is, but I'd like to get a little more information as to what's going on. I can tell you one corner if you wanted to fish where the fish are, and that's the trucks when they come off the freeway and make a right onto Franklin hauling lumber. Yeah, I guarantee that they put on a compression brake to make that stop. But somebody not paying attention. I learned the hard way. You don't drive with it on unless you're out on the highway. But I'm kind of curious what the problem is and if there's a way to address it.
Other commissioners?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Lewis?
just as a general thought, I don't have an objection to co-locating a compression brake ordinance sign on the Welcome to Meridian sign. It seems fairly harmless.
At that location?
Well, the location is going to be changing as the city grows. So you're going to take the signpost and move it southward every year probably as the city grows. But, you know, wherever that has to be, it seems reasonable.
Well, where would you put it now? If you were to say today, put it there, where would there be?
At the current city limit. So just south of the canal, according to this picture that was in our packet.
Mr. Hood, the southernmost city limit is below Victory, right?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, yes, to answer your question directly, if I may follow that up though, this is more art than science. So technically there's a lot of property that is annexed into Meridian that hasn't yet developed and feel like the city. So in fact, you know, all of this land is annexed into the city, but there's nothing out here. So in conversations with the mayor's office, they really don't want to move those signs until you really start to see the rooftops or businesses come, and then you move the sign back. So again, like I was saying before, if you wanted to put it at the top of the hill by a year or two, but everyone should understand that when this subdivision develops and points south, that both signs would move south. So as long as everyone understands those are the rules we're playing by, and it may by a couple of years. And if I may, while I get the floor real quick, to Commissioner Ballard's point in question, we talked about that too. Like what trucker is using Linder, especially this section of Linder, because you can't, at least right now, you can't go over the interstate. So it seems like it's more of a local truck And again, this maybe answers the question. This may be a temporary concern because of the home construction that's going on in this very vicinity. So maybe it goes away for the most part, because most of the large subdivisions are being developed. And when this is done, your problem goes away because truckers are going to use 10 Mile and Meridian Road. You can't even get there from here on Linder. You're, not to say a truck hasn't used it or never will again, but it's really just not a truck route. So I don't have that information. I will ask, well, I'm going to jump to what I think I heard. At least one commissioner needs some more information, and maybe the complainant has some of that information, and invite them back next month to make this appeal to you all and think about it some more before taking action. And maybe I'm all wet and you guys want to direct us to move the sign now and you don't want them to hear from them, say, hey, we heard you and we're going to move it. That's fine too. But
Ballard was talking about the when and the who, if the complainant knew. Sergeant Dance.
Yes, sir. So I would agree probably with Mr. Lancaster and Mr. Hood in the sense that, if you do end up putting up a sign there, it's going to be merely a suggestion or kind of a courtesy to the truckers, because it is going to be it's not likely that we're going to be able to enforce that to the extent that would satisfy the complainant here. I also agree with Mr. Hood that this location, it doesn't look like it's an area where these trucks are going to be in and out all the time from here on out. I think if you decide you're going to put one there on Linder Road at that location, then who's to say somebody can't complain and you end up putting one on every other main roadway along the city limits. And it's nice if people see the sign and they, are courteous and remember where they're at, and that it's, a city ordinance not to have Jake breaks, or to use them in city limits. But I don't think it's going to be as efficient or beneficial to the point that this complainant would like it to be.
A little bit like a no texting while driving law that is almost impossible to enforce. But I hate to tell you, but I think about it. I don't pick mine up as much as I used to. Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Take us somewhere.
So, as everybody has said, why are trucks using that? One, farming could be one reason, but 10 Mile being closed is probably the main reason that all of a sudden he's hearing those brakes being used on that hill. Once 10 Miles opened up, I think you'll see Linder being avoided for the use of trucks. And second, I don't see a problem with putting commingling a sign with welcome to Meridian and move it where the city limit is. You already have them on Amity. When I go home, I see that sign all the time too. Whether they follow it or not, I don't know, but it's my 2 cents worth.
So would you move it further south, down below Victory?
I don't know the rules on how often they can move that sign.
I'm guessing the one sitting there now has been there for a year or 2 or 3. Just guessing. It's way up there.
yeah, Mr. Chair,
I've been puzzled at 4 or 5 years I've been in Meridian about the fact that I never know whether I'm in Meridian or not. There's a real lack of Meridian city limit signs, but now that I understand how checkerboarded Meridian is, how there's unincorporated land all over the place and there's incorporated land out in the middle of nowhere, you could go crazy moving signs all the time, trying to keep up with it. Mr. Hood, do you think it would be beneficial for us to try to get the who and when from the complainant and ask, is this new? Has this been going on the whole time you've been living there? Or is it just started recently when 10 Mile closed? Or get us a a little more information possibly?
So, Mr. Chair, I'm gonna answer your question this way, and if you tell me to talk to them and ask them to come with more information, I will do that. You tell me what you guys need what the next steps are, and if that's what you want to do, I have no problem reaching out to them and inviting them and asking them to, maybe if they don't have it, gather some of that information and maybe even look and see if they can, see the writing on the trucks as they go by, and we can reach out to them, give them a call and say, hey, can you be more courteous, talk to your drivers about, so you tell me.
Mr. Leclerc?
Well, I'm interested, I think, in this issue here, but also what are we doing with these signs throughout this, all over around the city? Is it, I think there's it just seems like this is not a great place for either sign, but it's, so I don't know, it seems like we need more information and more study. And our ordinance review committee could pick this up if it became substantial enough to do that. But let's try to find out more. I think that's a good idea. Let's see what else is good to know about this issue and if we need to do anything. And so that's my thinking too.
I've got to get more information from Commissioner Leclerc, from Commissioner Ballard. Lewis, could you stand more information?
Perhaps, Mr. Chairman.
It's probably a product of the flagging over on 10 Mile is my guess, but I don't know that.
Yeah, the traffic control on 10 Mile, I'm sure, is suspect.
Mr. Hood, can you, I don't know that we need to wait a month or rather to wait and have the man come and tell us the answer, whether he can tell us beforehand and then we could talk about it at the next meeting. And if they want to attend to hear the discussion, I think that would be fine. I don't want to drag this out all the way through the summer. If we can help it. But I agree that a little more information might help us go somewhere. And if he says, I don't know, I'll pay attention and see what time of day it is, or see if I can get a truck color or something and let you know. I strongly suspect it's one of those few houses in that one block north of the top of that hill that are backed right up against that road, and somebody's dragging their foot because that's what they do when they hit a hill.
Talking on their phone.
Or, yeah, they're talking on their phone.
Mr. Chair, I think I can do that. I can see what information they have. They may even be watching. I don't see anybody else here, but you could watch it on YouTube, and I don't know who's watching that or watching it after the fact. But we will reach out to them, see what information they already have, and if they need to gather some, and then share it with the whole commission electronically in advance of the meeting. Certainly invite them. Maybe just one more thought. And, I know police are busy, but they could send some people out there and patrol, and it is ordinance, and maybe, I don't know. I'm just saying you could, maybe even a presence like the texting. If you see a black and white, maybe you're less likely to, use your unmuffled compression brake at that location. So I know they're busy and they got their own things to do, but that could be maybe something that have a police presence and just see, and maybe even pull somebody over if they are using it and educate them.
Sergeant Dance has an opinion, I think.
Yeah, probably.
No, sir. I agree with you, Mr. Hood. So if we could get maybe a more specific time of the day, if there's if the complainant has a specific time of the day where this is occurring more, then it's possible that we could send somebody out there for that specific time to look for that.
Okay. Yeah, I think we all want to be responsive to the complainant if we can figure out what a response should be. Everybody good? There you go, Mr. Hood. Anything else in staff communication, sir? Okay. July's meeting date poses a problem. Mr. Hood, would you like to explain the question?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, the 4th of July occurs on the first Monday this year. So 2 options, and I did confirm with the clerk. If you'd like to, we can just push our meeting back to the July 11. That's the second Monday of the month, or cancel it. So those are the 2 options as we see them.
Your thoughts?
Chairman, I would
Mr. Ballard?
propose to move it back. As we approach June, we'll see if the schedule dictates holding a meeting in July. Sometimes during the summer, grant will need more information. But I'd push it back to the 11th and see where we stand.
I've got 3 yeses to my right, another one to my left, Mr. Leclerc. Mr. Lancaster, we haven't forgotten you're out there. I see your thumb. Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, just a follow-up request on that, then will you pencil it in just in case we do, or, have it there, then everyone is, I know summertime start to get vacations and whatnot. So if you can pencil it in, we'll confirm in June.
Yeah, let's
Thank you.
presume it's going to be moved to the 11th, subject to
June.
need for a meeting and what happens in June and where we are. So that gives you your 4th of July answer. You don't have to come in and sit with us on the 4th of July. Okay. Future meeting topics. Mr. Leclerc made a request that ask whether it would be possible or if the mayor would have interest in coming and speaking to the Transportation Commission about the state of transportation in Meridian and his thoughts and so forth. We broached the subject with the mayor last week. He indicated that he would be receptive to that, and staff and the mayor were throwing around the June meeting as a possibility. It seems that falls somewhat shortly after his State of the City address to the Chamber of Commerce, or whoever he got the chamber. And so he would probably have his thoughts together to do that. So it looks like, short of some change of plans, Mr. Leclerc, we will have that in June.
Mr. Chair, if I may, just to piggyback on that a little bit, June 1st is State of the City. So if you want to watch that address, it is going to be live streamed. I am still inquiring if there are any in-person tickets for those of you that are interested. So stay tuned. I don't know what the chamber is going to do. It is limited attendance this year. So, but if you're interested, I can really make a push, but I can't offer you all a ticket right now because I don't know how many tickets I have to offer. So, but everyone can watch it. State of the City, June 1st on your computer or whatever.
Okay, and Mr. Hood has already spoken to future topics of the ACHD Capital Improvement Plan, the ACHD Advisory Committee, and the changes that they're working on making in the way they do their prioritizations. The I-84 eastbound off-ramp, I'm holding that on future meetings to keep us reminded that somebody's going to do something about that. And that's pretty much it. Anyone have anything else for the good of the group? Hearing nothing, the chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Mr. Lewis, Mr. Ballard, first and second. No discussion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Anybody want to stay? Thank you, one. Thank you all. Thank you, Sergeant. Good to have you with us. Glad nothing happened to the extent that you needed to get up and leave.
I turned my radio off.
Hi, everybody.
We
Thank
are
you.
adjourned.
Steve, that says I still can do it.